Hey everybody, welcome to another Games that Infuriate Me to No End. This is Evolve. You may be wondering, well, isn't Evolve supposed to be not that bad, DW? I mean, why would it infuriate you? Well, let's just start with my exact impressions of this game as I started it up thanks to this Steam free weekend that just happened. Okay? I quite literally started the game up and was introduced to the typical showing the logos and such like that, followed immediately by an unskippable tutorial video, which led directly into a tutorial level. I was not allowed to change any of my video settings at all until I finally got in-game. And then I find out, oh wait, I can't actually switch my video settings while I'm actually in a game. So I have to go to the main menu to do that. I find that all of the video settings are set to medium on a GTX 970, 16 gigs of RAM, and an i7 4790K. This stuff runs this thing at over 100 FPS all the time. Now that sort of thing happens on occasion, and it was really little more than a mild annoyance. But I was fiddling with all the graphic settings. I set everything to the absolute max. Like I said, it runs over 100 FPS, so it's no big deal. But then I go to change my resolution, because as you guys know, I record at 720p, which is 1280 by 720. My monitor's native resolution is 1280 by 1024. It's a 5:4 aspect ratio resolution as opposed to 1280 by 720, which is a 16:9 resolution. So I go and switch it to 1280 by 720. It stretches the image to fit my screen, which makes it extremely hard to actually play. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. This happens fairly often. So I'll switch it to windowed mode and full screen windowed to see which one works better. So I'll switch it to full screen windowed. It's basically just full screen, so there's no real point to doing that. So I switch it over to just plain windowed mode, and it changes my resolution to 800 by 600. I look in all the resolutions for windowed mode. They are 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, and 1152 by 864. Why? Why is it not letting me run it in 1280 by 720 in windowed mode? That is perfectly acceptable on my monitor, and I have not run into a single other game that has basically done that, unless it was from the 90s, when 16 by 9 resolution monitors were not really much of a thing. See, in those games I can excuse it. I can't excuse it in a game from 2015. So right off the bat, you're seeing a stretched image. I'm sorry about that. I can't help that, because that's the way the game runs. So what do I do from there? Well, I go and I try to play a solo game just to get used to the controls and things like that. Well, I go into solo mode and select the arena mode because I just wanted to mess around with stuff, and immediately am treated to an unskippable video that explains to me the game mode. Again, unskippable, because of course it is. So then I get into the character selection thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll select a character. I select a character and their skin and everything, and then I go into the actual game. And I am treated to yet another video, but this time I can actually skip it, which is wonderful. So then I get into the actual game proper. And what you're seeing is my very first game of Evolve. It's a complete clusterfuck. I have basically no idea what's going on. Now that said, this is in the single player mode. I imagine this is a better game in multiplayer, and I imagine it's better in the mode it was intended for. But unfortunately for the game, I don't even care at this point. It made such a terrible first impression that I'm not going to bother playing it anymore. Especially when I can neither record it at my proper resolution for video production, nor can I actually go into this thing without running into 8 billion friggin' tutorial videos that are unskippable. And what little chance I got to actually play the game itself was not enjoyable. Again, I had no fucking clue what was going on. So, I don't care. It made a terrible first impression. I see no reason to continue bothering with it. So, if you like Evolve, whatever. That's up to you. But this thing has pissed me off to be irredeemable. And I ultimately don't care how good the game is on its own merits anymore. Remember, folks, if you're going to design video games, first impressions mean a lot. And what this game has managed to do is make me not want to bother with it anymore. And that's pretty impressive considering it was one of the biggest releases of this year. And of course, it really doesn't help that when I went to play this thing during the free weekend, they also had a free weekend of Killing Floor 2 going on. And when I started that game up, it went through the typical logo stuff, which you can actually skip, by the way. And after that, it goes straight to the main menu, where you can fiddle with all the graphics settings you want to your heart's content. Windowed mode works perfectly fine. It defaulted all of my video settings to high instead of medium, and it was an extremely easy thing to just switch it all to ultra without any real problems whatsoever. And when I finally got into game, I could actually figure out what was going on and play it without a hitch. So while that game does have problems, it didn't make a bad first impression. And that's exactly what free weekends are for, to give you that first impression so that you will be like, oh, well, I want to buy this game. And now I don't want to bother with Evolve anymore. Good job, Turtle Rock Studios and 2K. Good job.